Green tea.
A wonderful line that if you act the sheep, a wolf will appear.
Impressive.
Nasty, isn't it?
Whenever he did Lonesome Roads, there was a
Yeah, what
woman
he got me
that was
tasting
like
there?
a producer.
It was-
That was Patricia
was a lot
Neal.
stronger.
Strong.
Yeah.
It was stronger
Very
yesterday.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
good.
very good.
Wow.
And he was excellent
It
as
just got a little
as a sinister
bite
character.
to it.
Because you
And the
have
caffeine will be kicking in a minute.
affable Sheriff Taylor,
I went to a tea tasting
but he
yesterday.
had great range,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
he could play a very sinister character.
Well, I've
Very
never.
well.
I don't know enough
Yeah.
about teas though.
Well,
I'm learning.
It was like he had.
Well, now you can
Bipolar.
slide in a little
almost a
more.
bipolar. Going back, John, you were going to tell us something very interesting about Don Knotts.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
I've got something I
used-
want to tell about Don too.
But okay, before the Tonight Show was the Johnny Carson show, and before it was that,
Jack Parr
I guess it was Jack Parr. And was there something? Was it also Steve Allen at some point?
might have been way early. Steve Allen. Jack
Okay.
Parr was in the '60s and
Right.
'70s.
I thought Jack. I was under the impression Jack Parr was the original host.
The
but I could be
original
wrong.
host. Anyway, maybe that's it. Maybe that's true. At any rate, maybe it was Jack Parr, and I believe this is probably accurate. But he used to have Don Knotts. So I used to see Don Knotts. This was before Andy Griffith and stuff. I used to see Don Knotts. So does anyone else remember that?
Yeah.
And he would say, I can remember, and he would say, oh yes, and tonight we have the nervous man. He would say the nervous man, and so then later he would say, and it's time now we have the nervous man on, and he would have Don Knotts would come on, and he would say, it says here that you are that you disarm bombs. That you go in and you disarm arm bombs. He says
detonation expert.
right, and he says, does that make you nervous? And Don Knotts would go, nope,
Yeah.
nope. and it would, the whole interview, it would be like that. He would just like, nope, and that was the nervous man.
That's interesting.
That I always, as a kid, I always looked forward to seeing the nervous man.
Well, I met Don Knotts.
Okay.
I met Don Knotts when he was filming at the Biltmore Estate. I was working at Grove Park Inn, and he came in very late one night, him and Tim Conway. And
What were they
I love
filming?
Tim Conway.
They were filming the Sherlock Holmes style investigation over at the Biltmore House. I forgot the name of
The
it.
Dumpling Gang.
No,
one of those
no,
things.
it was
Was
that-
it Ghost and Mr. Chicken?
No, wasn't Ghost and Miss Chicken. They did something like they were Sherlock Holmes, but they were
Okay.
doing it. But anyway, some facts about Don Knotts. You'll never believe. Now the man's dead now, which God rest his soul.
Is he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's dead. He's up in the sky with his one bullet. In the morning, when Don Knotts got up, his breakfast, all he wanted for breakfast was black coffee and burnt toast when he stayed at the hotel. And he stayed at the hotel for about a week and a half, complained about the children running up and down the hallway, so they moved down to Country Club. And if you're familiar with the Grove Park Inn, the old part of Grove Park Inn, it's not that much traffic. He just wanted to be by himself. But Tim Conway was a very funny man. At that time, they were doing he had his own show called Tim Conway Show.
I remember
But
that.
Don, if you've seen him, you'd have to take a double take. This was back in the 82, 83 time period. When I first seen him, I didn't even recognize him. He didn't look so hot back then. I'm amazed he made it as long as he did. But Tim was very nice. He gave me a $10 tip. Tim did. So that was a Boone's Farm night back in the day.
So Tim Conway was a really nice guy. Don Knotts was a bit of a diva.
Well, he didn't say much because he was tipsy a lot. But so he didn't bother nobody. He was just his own way, So that's the status of him.
He was a closet drinker.
You could say that.
Pass me another one of those things.
Okay.
They're not gonna make it far with me around.
You need to get two. You're a two man.
We're mentioning Jack.
Be a pig and eat them all just because I would.
I know.
We were mentioning Jack Parr, and I actually have a really good story about how Dick Cavett managed to finally break into TV involving Jack Parr. I've become a bit of an admirer of Dick Cavett as
Me
of
too.
late.
Cavett is wonderful
Yeah.
I agree.
and brilliant.
Yeah. And you're gonna think he's even more brilliant after this. This was 1960. Dick Cavett was 24, I believe. And he had a job working in the mailroom at Time magazine. And he had already gotten good at meeting celebrities and investigating them and scoping them out. And so he got from the mailroom at Time magazine because he had read that Jack Parr was having a lot of problems with his monologue. He wasn't happy with a lot of the material he was being given for his monologue. So Dick Cavett was, he'd already graduated Yale, generally very witty sort of fellow. So he just wrote down some lines, got an official Time magazine envelope, put the lines in the envelope, had scattered out The Tonight Show already, so knew where to intercept Jack Parr on his way to going to the filming. And it's just, gave him the official-looking envelope. And this is 1960. In 1960, people paid a lot more attention to official-looking envelopes than they do now. So just, excuse me, Mr. Parr, but this is for you, and handed it to Jack Parr, and then just went and sat in the studio audience. Sure enough, Jack Parr used some of the lines that Dick Cavett had written down for him. And so, after that, Dick Cavett made sure that he and Jack Parr were on the same elevator going down. And 3 weeks later, Dick Cavett was on the
That's
payroll.
determination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's determination.
That's good. I tell you what, if you get the chance to see some of the old Dick Cavett stuff, if you can get to see the interview with Jimi Hendrix, if you can see Dick Cavett interview Jimi
It was on
Hendrix,
PBS.
It's
It was
awesome.
on PBS. I guess a couple of months ago, I caught it.
Yeah.
And they had the entire interview.
Did you think it was awesome?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire interview. Yeah.
Well, I remember
He
when
may have interviewed him twice, but a lot. He did Hendrix,
Yeah.
Cavett, and Hendrix. I'm sorry.
I remember when he interviewed Janis Joplin back in 1968, and it was the first time I saw her
Was that awesome
on
too?
TV, and I was just blown away that a woman could be acting like that. And I was like, hey, that's my girl. I love her. She was fabulous.
Right.
I remember that interview. That was like,
Right. And
I never saw a woman act like that before on TV.
yeah,
Or not very much. Well, maybe since,
don't-
but
you
she
don't-
was at first.
you don't to this day very much.
She was.
Yeah, she was wide open, wasn't she?
And was it PBS or something? Was Turner Classic Movies was playing some of the early Dick Cavett shows not too long ago.
I knew they were trying to sell his series.
Really?
You could buy a series.
They actually have a couple box set DVDs of Dick Cavett. I recently worked my way through one I borrowed from a friend that was him, just episodes of his with various rock icons. One of the 3 DVDs is devoted entirely to Janis Joplin episodes.
Really?
Okay.
So there.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that took me to a new
Hit that
level
one.
of
Hit this one.
expression when I saw her on
Okay, let me count
TV.
this.
I'm like, wow.
Nice. It was all
Because
just.
we didn't have anything before then, anything remotely like that.
Hey, Dave.
That's what I've been heard. Just a little bit before my time.
So, have you done another episode, Dave?
A cooking episode?
Well, I seen the hat making this.
Yeah, I've done the felt episode
Seen
and the
that.
other episode, and I just went to Nashville and filmed an episode on plastic surgery.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
We were talking about that.
I didn't know you were a plastic surgeon.
No, I went.
Did you interview people or?
I went. The surgeon is from Brazil. People go abroad now for plastic
Oh,
surgery.
a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
And they're very good in Brazil with plastic surgery.
Have you
They've
seen the movie?
innovated a lot.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Brazil? Oh, let me recommend, particularly because you've done that, to see the movie Brazil.
Why are they doing a lot of plastics down
Just see
there in the movie?
Just see the movie Brazil, and may I also recommend if Jonathan is watching this, Jonathan, if you are watching this, you are supposed to be watching Videodrome.
Ah.
Is that why you're not at work today, Jonathan? Did you watch
I saw
Videodrome?
Jonathan. He's in there.
Is he in there?
Yeah.
Jonathan, watch Videodrome.
I told you to put my number on there.
With Debbie
See if
Harry.
anybody Call in, but I don't know if he done. Let me ask
No,
him.
well,
It should be
okay,
going
put your
across the monitor if
Oh, yeah.
anybody did.
See-
So
See if Jonathan wants to put
It's
us up
happening.
some roll in. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Douglas used to have a lot of early people on too, interviews, and there was a guy in New York, Bob McAllister,
I told him
and
to
he
put it
had
over. I gave him
a
a number.
Saturday morning show, talk show for kids.
Who?
But he had
Mike Douglas?
Bob McAllister. I don't know if you remember. I forgot the name of the show, but he had Roger Daltrey on there, and he used to have. And it was just, you'd be Saturday morning, and you'd be like,
Yeah, I used to run into Roger Daltrey running the Vita course down in Coconut Grove. He would run that sometimes, and they'd be down there.
yeah, there were a lot of there are a lot of classic videos that people haven't seen yet that are just locked up, vaulted, you know.
Really.
Yeah.
So you did a Sean plastic surgery.
I did some interviews of people who had been for the website that represents the surgeon, so that people can go click on the
Well, the
link
mouse
and
is
go
moving
see what
across the
people
table.
say about their surgery experience in Brazil.
Well, they did a thing on it was either 2020 or 60 Minutes, talking about outsourcing medical procedures, where you would go to a country and have like a hip replacement, and it'd be a third, 60% off from what U.S. surgeons would cost, and that's happening.
Blue Ridge Paper has stopped their carrying insurance, healthcare insurance on their employees. If you get sick, they'll send you to India or somewhere for a heart transplant or whatever. They find that it's much more cost effective. And that's the way of, I think, probably a number of
That's
things.
strange. You're sick here. You gotta get on.
outsourcing.
You gotta get on a shuttle bus to an
No.
airport.
No.
Fly out there.
Well, I mean, if it's like, it can't be an emergency,
Yeah.
obviously. But if you know that
Yeah.
you're going to need a knee transplant
Yeah.
or knee implant,
Yeah. Well,
if it's 20% of what it costs here,
So we're not
And
even
it-
doing our own heart
and
transplants
they're-
anymore.
and it's on par,
Right.
or maybe at least on par. I know in Brazil the surgery is on par, and the aftercare is probably better because they send a massage therapist to you every morning. They send a dressing nurse to you every morning. The hospitals are very clean, so there's not a lot of third worldishness going on there.
We are
Plus
so
the
in the decline.
aftercare.
We are so in the decline of an
The
empire.
aftercare.
We are.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That-
Right.
And
It's
why is it
rapid
right now?
decline.
well,
Why not?
again, our major health cost is because number one, people can't afford insurance, so therefore, whenever they do go, they don't pay for it. So everybody's premium goes sky high, and then you got illegal immigration. Okay, those two facts right there, I think, is a major problem. The cost,
And my insurance is $500 a month.
and who pays out of that 500? If those two factors were gone, I'd say your premiums would probably be around 200 a month. That's my opinion.
Something else that I have observed and heard through certain cases is that to deal with the legality of it, doctors tend to cover for each other when they mess up, when they shouldn't be covering for each other, like way too much. The reason that there are so many, there are some serious ambulance chasers, but there are also some really, really, really valid malpractice cases. And the doctors are too unwilling to be honest about the ones of them that are screwing up and giving them a bad name. And personally, I think a lot to do with our skyrocketing medical costs are the doctors that don't do their jobs right and just keep on people going in and out. I mean, there are doctors that will butcher somebody and that person stays in the medical care system
Right.
because of the injuries they received,
It's true.
as opposed to having the problems taken care of. I know somebody that's in that situation.
And it's
And
hard
that's
to
it.
actually sue unless you're dead or you're really terribly, terribly maimed.
And then money is really of no value other than to be compensated for your health care.
Right.
What else is left?
Even the myth is that anybody can go in and sue for a botched toenail operation. In reality, it's very difficult to sue, and
Right.
you have to have like something really, really major wrong with you. So that argument that medical costs are so high because we have all these malpractice insurance ambulance chasers around all over the place is propaganda.
Now, what are your days that you're free, Dr. Dick?
I have
You-
some time on Friday a lot,
Friday, 'cause I'm-
and then there's like 2 Wednesdays a month.
Two
that
Wednesdays a
two
month.
Wednesdays a month. Yes, that I
Okay.
have some afternoons that are open.
Mhm.
You know, so if, I think you were looking. Were you looking at getting?
I'm trying to get the Dr. Dick show going.
The Dr. Dick show?
I've
Okay.
tried that before. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Grab me that little pot. I want some. You had just the one you just had.
Oh,
some.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yeah, you said it's good. I want some of that.
You know,
It's
if
hot.
Matt would jump in
It is.
and help,
Okay.
I'd do 2. I could do 2 a month.
I'm here.
That's good. That's
Tea
good.
party-ish? Is that what you're talking about doing?
Or
What about you?
Well, you might want
I
want a
don't know how
different
to set
format.
up his
you know.
wonderful stuff.
You might not want a tea party.
Well, I may not do a tea party. I may just
you
have.
could, you could have the coffee break, or you might
Coffee
have
break.
something else. You might want to do a political show. You know, you tend more toward the political arena, don't you?
Well,
local politics. Is
local
some of your
politics,
thing,
yes.
yeah.
And as a
How
matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up. I just want to jump in real quick. On Tuesday, the town of Weaverville voted for 2 issues. Number one, to have a liquor store.
I saw
in
that.
the city.
ABC.
Yeah, ABC store inside the city limits, and also they voted liquor by the drink, which means you could sell it by the drink, which means restaurants could
I
serve
thought
it.
that they were short 2 votes on that.
They were short 3 votes on that, and that's what I was getting ready to say. The first vote, as far as having an ABC store, it did pass. It passed by about 40 votes, but liquor by the drink fell by 3. Very sad time. I'm not an alcoholic
But
drinker.
you need the ABC store to get liquor by the drink, so that's step 1, isn't
Well,
it?
not necessarily. You don't have to have the liquor store or the ABC store, because there's going to be one in Woodfin anyway,
Okay.
which is 5
Yeah.
miles down the road. The liquor by the drink would have brought some good quality restaurants into Weaverville. Now, there's some restaurants in Weaverville, but very few, and it's restricted. And I'm sure those restaurant folks, I'm sure they didn't want it to come, but majority of people that lives outside of Weaverville wanted some brand name restaurants like Outback and Carrabba's
Right.
and stuff like that. I seen you wig you out. You don't like Outback?
It's not that I have a problem
it's
against
corporate.
it,
Uh-huh.
but I think like the arrangement that is currently kind of holding in Asheville, but that could all go out the window. In that downtown is a lot of non-chain restaurants, locally owned, and you go through the tunnel, and then there's the strip with the corporate restaurants.
Absolutely.
I like that division.
And that same concept could have worked in Weaverville, because you have
Okay.
a downtown area, and then you on the outside they're getting ready to build a 71-acre complex out there. It will have Walmart and Lowe's and some other stuff, and that's what we needed it for.
Okay,
But
I just
the-
had this vision of an Outback in downtown Weaverville, and it was not a happy
Well,
image.
again,
in
it's
my
not
head.
downtown.
Okay.
It's going to be on the right off 1923 or I-26.
The
Okay.
good restaurants downtown are still going to have liquor by the drink.
They're
Okay.
going to have liquor by the drink too. I mean, so that so it fell by 3. And I was wanting to say earlier, I don't drink much alcohol. People that know me personally
I don't either.
can attest to that. But I just think it was a mistake for the folks in Weaverville. Of course, now there's a moral issue there, and if you, as you know, my politics, a lot of folks probably wouldn't want it, but we need that liquor by the drink, because the restaurants that will come in now will be fast food joints. The pay for those folks working there is going to be minimal. Whereas if you did do an Outback, and I'm just using Outback for an example, because number one, the waitresses or waiters would get paid more money, because the bill's going to be more. Number two, the tax revenue that they'd bring in, because it's a bigger restaurant, would be more. Plus, when they buy their liquor to serve to
Buy through the
the
ABC
customers,
store.
they have to go through the ABC store, and they have to pay a premium for that liquor.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I wished it had passed.
Now, can I
Yes,
paraphrase?
go
Can I
right ahead.
paraphrase
Paraphrase
this,
it for me.
folks? Yankees spend more money when they're drunk. Okay.
But anyway, I did want to get that in today.
But Rick, can I give an argument
Yes.
against that?
Yes, go right ahead. I'd like to hear your argument.
Your argument about that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago about corporate Circuit City and how they
Yes,
got
how
rid
they
of that
did.
girl
Yes, they got-
and said, well, you can come back in 2 months at a reduced pay.
That was pathetic.
Corporations are chilly, and so are Outbacks. I'll bet you.
Okay, well let me give you another phrase on that. If you take
Like
Outback,
corporate is not necessarily 100% of the answer.
oh, I'm not
Although
going to say it's
anti-business.
Yeah, I'm not
but-
saying
But
corporate's
if you
your
open
best
up,
benefits.
if you open that up, you bring more traffic in, and it opens up more traffic for independents to open up also.
It
Most of the
does.
time, where people think a corporate restaurant or a larger restaurant opens up, that it sucks the life out of local business. It really doesn't. It offers a competitive edge, and it brings more people to the area. And people are going to look for what they want to eat.
Yes.
And if you have a choice between going to a local restaurant and a corporate restaurant, if you want to go to a corporate restaurant, you're going to drive all the way to Asheville to come to it, or you're going to go to Weaver. You're not going to go to the restaurant next door. But what that does is it will increase traffic. It increases base revenue, tax revenue. The issue at hand about misuse of alcohol and the effects of it. The industry, the hospitality industry is so regulated now, and anyone who applies for the liquor license and is really not going to be in business long if they don't abide by the laws.
Sure,
and the
absolutely.
laws are very strict now.
And the cost to get a license is very
Cost to get a
steep.
license, yeah.
Very.
And
You don't wanna
if you
lose it.
if you don't train your staff, if you overserve people, you can't do the happy hours like you used to. You can't really. Mostly anyone who's opening up and applying for a liquor license, they have a choice: either serve responsibly, or not, and really be out of business and lose everything that they invest, because that's what it comes to. You're liable for your guests when they come out of your restaurant to a large extent. But it's a hard call.
Well, you're in the Bible Belt here.
Yeah.
And that has a whole lot to do with that. As a matter of fact, I would say that's the primary thing that's got anything to do with it. Let me tell some stories. I got, and it has to do with how I've watched this work before, and it's like zoning or liquor by the drink and stuff like that. And I see that they got an area. Who's really making out on liquor by the drink is going to be Town Hall, because of the revenue that's going to come in.
Liquor by the drink, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Liquor by the drink,
Liquor by the drink
absolutely.
is gonna bring taxes in that they want to see, and so they're going to have a vote this year. They had a vote, and it didn't pass. But if it follows the same pattern that I've seen in other communities all over the state, a year or 2 years from now, they'll have another vote.
Oh, 2 years.
2 years on this one?
that's
Okay,
enough.
see, it's following the I'm accustomed to that. They'll have another vote to see if they can get liquor by the drink. And if it doesn't pass, well, a couple of years later, they'll have another vote. Eventually, it'll pass.
Oh, absolutely.
Eventually, it will
Attitudes
pass.
change.
Now, after it passes, 2 years later, they're not going to have another vote on it because it's passed.
It's a done deal.
So what they do is they just continue to have a vote on it until it passes.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And the first time that not enough of the good flock or whatever show up for the vote to keep it from passing, it passes, and then it's there, and it doesn't change. And zoning generally works the same way. They'll say we're going to have zoning, and they'll vote on it and they'll vote it down, and then so a year later or something they'll do it again, but as soon as it passes, they quit voting on it.
Right.
I think these kind of things, they should, if they keep on voting on it till they get it, they should have to keep on voting on it and see if they
Well,
and
give it
stand a chance of losing.
instead of a temporary approval, like it's always
Conditional.
conditional. Every year and a half, you're up for review.
Right.
How did you license? How did this affect the
that would have to be
area?
straight
Review-
Did we like voting? No.
Yeah.
But see, I'm trying to get around to more story about zoning. Okay,
Yeah, we
and
need to
it
talk
has
about
to do with a friend of mine who has recently bought a house, and and the house that he bought had a really generous 2-car garage on the back with yet another for a third car built onto it and all, and he's turned it into his workshop, and he's got a really nice workshop back there which he uses, and he's a real workshop kind of person, really uses it a lot. And he said because of zoning, he says in the area he's in has zoning, and he says because of zoning you would not be allowed to build a shop of this size behind your house anymore.
Very possible.
Yeah,
Very
and,
possible.
And so now he's lucky. He bought a piece of property that had a workshop that was large enough for what he wanted on there. But if he bought in another area and then zoning came in,
Right.
he would not be able to build a workshop big enough for him to have his table saw in and his pickup truck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and some really good sized workbenches and all. He would not be allowed to build that workshop because it would be too large to go behind his house on his property, so that's what you're going to get if zoning comes in.
It's here.
Well,
It's just started.
They're not trying
zoning is going to
prevent mobile homes from being in Swananoa
Zone is
Valley
gonna-
too, and
It's going to do a lot of things, but one of the things it's going to do is it's going to tell you how big the workshop in the back of your house can be.
When the city of Asheville began their zoning several years ago, the book was about an inch thick. Today it is over 12 inches thick, what I have heard.
A nightmare.
It is. You'd be amazed. I believe there should be some restrictions, but I don't think zoning is the answer. But going back to something you said, John, one thing about it, the people voted in Weaverville whether or not they wanted the liquor. Okay, now I didn't agree with it, and I expressed myself here. But the people spoke, and it's going to go until 2 years, and then we'll vote again.
Yeah.
But the people of Buncombe County did not get to vote on whether or not they want zoning. Back about 8-10 years ago, Buncombe County had a referendum. It was a non-binding referendum, which means you could not enforce it, whether they wanted zoning, and it failed. 58% was no zoning.
Right.
So, but I do believe there should be some restrictions in certain areas. I don't know how we could enforce it, but then again, there should be ways.
There does need to be restrictions. There need to be certain laws in place that govern things like steep slope development and things like that for good physical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? And neighborhood reasons and stuff like that. But as you know, a lot of this zoning can get way out of hand. And
Extreme.
yeah.
Extreme. Absolutely.
And that's the whole thing. Now, would there be some way that we could just zone people that are moving into the area? You know what I'm saying?
well, that's the grandfather clauses. If you're already there, and then if you're new,
right, but if you've been here 10 years, you're not zoned. You know what I'm
you're
saying?
zoned out.
You're zoned out. Right. That would be the Asheville locals would all be zoned out.
Yeah, zoned out.
Yeah.
Really, one thing I could say about that, John, would be that maybe if you had gated communities, which, by the way, the city of Asheville felt that no development should be gated, so now there's no new gated communities, which I think is wrong.